Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about something that comes up a lot in my comments and in these topics, and it's always people who are like, hey, can I just skip the speed work? Can I do 4 days of max effort work? You did that for a little while, and I will tell you guys, I wasn't as happy with the results when I did that for a while, and that was quite a long time ago at this point. But people come up with these ideas because you get people who are like, well, I don't believe in speed work. And it's like, it's completely irrelevant. Whether you believe in it or not doesn't have any effect on whether it actually works or not. And that's something I've pointed out frequently with it. Speed work done correctly is part of a sequential part of programming. And most of the best coaches and strength and conditioning experts and researchers out there all agree that speed work actually does work. It's only people on the internet and newer, trendier coaches, granted some of them are successful powerlifters and stuff, mind you, but as far as the rest of the sports world is concerned, it does work. And everyone knows that it works. So it's kind of bizarre that it's a point of contention in these certain communities. And what you find with the way the speed work works is stuff that Louis Simmons and people discovered at Westside when they were programming stuff with concurrent type training. They tested a lot of stuff and found certain things to hold true as far as recovery models go. And you can argue against it all you want. And I even get coaches who I know who aren't full-time coaches. They're not making their living doing it. And are like, well, it doesn't work. I don't believe in it. And you can't just follow it because Louis Simmons said so. It's like, well, that's fine. And you can take that perspective, but here's the question I would ask the people who say that. How many world record holders are you coaching? How many professional athletes are you coaching? How many hundreds of people have you tested this on in order to determine a different outcome? In other words, you can dislike what Louis Simmons did. You can think he was wrong all that you want, but you don't have the knowledge base or the personal experience or the facilities to even test to determine if he was wrong. So that's kind of the problem with that chain of logic of this is a system and a way of combining these things together that he found worked to produce dozens and dozens of world record holders, to help professional athletes and other people who came to his facility to learn things, to get them all stronger and faster. And the results are there. It's not like this is just someone who coached 10 people and came up with this conclusion. And the problem is a lot of the people out there I know, and no offense to you guys, who take the other stance, you've coached like 10 people. Like, how could you even possibly consider yourself to be at a knowledge level to argue against this? You don't have the experience. You haven't coached 100 people. 200 people. You don't have any elite athletes. You don't have world record holders, let alone 100 of them. So where are you drawing these conclusions? Just because you don't want it to work? I mean, that's fucking asinine, guys. Come on. And I've experimented with it enough and have found that with my own lifters, when you actually apply this stuff, and I haven't just coached 10 or 20 or 30 people at this point, and let's take aside any part-time coaching I did in the past, just since I started opening coaching slots on this channel, I have actually had over 100 clients. I've had over 100 total clients. Because keep in mind, there's ebb and flow. A lot of people drop out after 1 month, 3 months, 6 months. And I keep around 35 to 40 year round. I've coached over 100 people just in the last few years. I've experimented with these same things that Louis has in myself and in my lifters, and you know what I found? Is that he's actually right. When you get large enough sample sizes, he's right. We really need to run the 2 max effort days separate from the dynamic effort days. And I'm not saying that's going to be perfect for every single lifter you work with, because there are always outliers. But on average, I find that I get the best results in my lifters when we do this, particularly more advanced lifters. And I think that's the take home. People who are advanced, and people say, how do you define advanced? You can go look at a strength and conditioning chart and define advanced. Pull up those charts, look at the body weight relative to the maxes on multiple lifts, squat, bench, deadlift, for example. If they're in the advanced category on 3 of them, they're advanced, okay? How's that for pretty straightforward? Okay, you have numbers that you can work with to determine that. The only time they're going to have a problem with those charts is if they're really, really, really fat, they might not be accurate because they're body weight based. But yeah, absolutely, 100% in my advanced lifters, running them on separate days produces the best recovery, the best improvements in strength. And there's a whole host of reasons why that is. We could argue about the speed strength component. We could argue about that. But even if we set that aside, it has to do with the different recovery curves. In other words, any way that you break it down with the speed work, it allows you to recover from the max effort work without interfering with it. The only time you run into a recovery interference is when you try to go too heavy. If you try to go too heavy on the speed work, this is the only time you run into problems, and people mess up and do that. But as long as you keep it light enough and in the proper ranges and it's explosive and fast, it doesn't impact the recovery. In other words, it allows you to be strong again on max effort days. Because, how many max effort days do we really need? 2 is fine. Even in a competition, you're only going to have 3 max lifts. Realistically, 2 max effort days a week is fine. That's enough to prepare you, and it's enough to maximize strength because you're not peaking strength because you're staying there year round if you're running the conjugate type system. Okay? And then obviously everything around that is geared towards hypertrophy on those same days to get bigger, raise our strength ceiling. That's kind of the secret to it. That's really kind of pivotal. Get as big as possible and then do heavy singles to maximize your strength, right? To actualize that strength potential. But the speed work itself, not only do we get the speed strength component, it allows us to practice our lifts. It allows us to get some extra volume in on things that are close to our classic lifts. But it does so in a way that does not interfere with recovery. Speed work is absurdly easy to recover from. In fact, a lot of my clients on deload weeks, I just have them do the speed work. I have them just do their normal speed work on all 4 days as a deload if they need one, and just do a little bit of accessory work behind it. Done. It's a deload week. It works because it doesn't interfere with it. You start trying to lift heavy on all 4 days and we start to run into recovery issues eventually. And it starts beating you up, and that's not what we want. We need to be refreshed and be fully recovered by our next max effort day. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.